Hello, everyone. I'm Rachel, the founder of Positive, and this is Christie, the co-founder.
Representing Positive, we are launching our second podcast series, Navigating the Veterinary Medicine Field and College Applications.
We are beyond excited to invite Laura, who is a second-year vet student at the graduate entry program at the University of Edinburgh.
She did her first degree at the University of Guelph in Canada and majored in zoology, minored in nutrition. In between the two degrees, she worked at a small animal hospital for 2 years.
So we'll be splitting the podcast into two halves. The first half is about college application tips, and the second half will be about vet med in the Uni of Edinburgh. So the first question would be, why did you choose Uni of Edinburgh but not other universities to study vet med?
Basically, when I was in University of Guelph, the University of Edinburgh admission team actually came to my university and did an introduction about their vet med program. So at that time, I was like, oh my God, I really want to go to Edinburgh. It looks so nice. The curriculum looks really nice. And then they talk about their exotic program. I was like, oh my God, I really want to be an exotic vet in the future. So that is like my option, right? But then I talked to my mom and she was like, maybe you should like stay in Guelph, because Guelph has vet school. I was like, okay, I will try Guelph first. And then if I don't get in, I would just try University of Edinburgh. And eventually, I was like, after University of Guelph, OVC, they closed down their exotic department. I was like, I want to go to a school that actually have really good exotic program. So that's why I choose Edinburgh.
Thank you. What would be the average admission rates, which is not the minimum requirement for the Uni of Edinburgh?
I think for University of Edinburgh, for me, my science GPA was 3.5. And then my overall GPA is like 3.44. So the minimum requirement for my GEP program, graduate entry program, is 3.4. So I'm just like a tiny little bit above the average. I think the average, I'm not sure about the average. I feel like other people are doing much better than me academically. Yeah. Yeah, but it's a 3.44 overall GPA.
Thank you. And for a follow-up question for the first one, you said that you wanted to pursue a career in more like exotic vet med. What's the difference between like exotics and normal cats and dogs?
I'm very interested in exotic medicine, especially small exotic mammals like guinea pigs, rats, hamster, ferrets, rabbits. It's just because I had like one tiny little bunny when I was really young. And then I remember that my bunny got hurt by a roller skater when my friend actually took her downstairs to play, which I'm really mad about. But anyway, and then so it was really hard to find a vet, like an exotic vet. I was in Beijing at the time. And I was like, oh, I wish in the future maybe I could be a doctor and I could treat like pet bunnies and, pet rats. And so for a clinic, for example, in Toronto, I just realized that lots of clinics only treats cats and dog. I had 3 rats 2 years ago, and one of them had like a mammary tumor and it was getting really big. And then so I was trying to find the actual like really, really good vet, like exotic vet to treat to help with the diagnosis of my rats. And I just couldn't find a good doctor. And then so they gave me the appointment for like a month later. There was like only just one vet clinic that actually treat exotic mammal in Toronto, which is called the Link Road Animal Clinic. And all other clinics are not really like taking rats or any other small exotic mammals. So after I got into vet school, I was like, okay, I'm going to, learn about exotic mammal, and in the future, maybe I will be an exotic vet.
Thank you. So on to the next question. What types of volunteer experiences did you find most valuable, and how do you incorporate them into your application?
The most valuable experience for me was actually the 2 years me working in the small animal clinic. I feel like for volunteering, you can only do so much. Like you shadow the vet, and then you get like a basic understanding of what a veterinarian's life be like in the clinic. But after I graduated from the university, I was like joining a small animal clinic in Guelph, and I got to like actually interact with clients on a daily basis. And then it just had a deeper understanding of what being a vet is like, because of course clients are not always happy, and then sometimes they're like really angry in various emotional states, and that's when as a veterinary assistant you have to like talk to them, you have to like reassure them, and the vet has to talk to them. And so I learned a lot about communication skill, especially client communication. And then about teamwork as well. I know that being a vet, you have to work in a team. And if the team doesn't have a really positive environment, it actually affect everybody. So it also like affect the health delivery to the animal as well. I think my most valuable experience is working in the small animal clinics for 2 years. So for dogs and cat clinic, I feel like everything is just like happening. For example, the patients and the clients be in the vet clinic, and then you do everything in the vet clinic. But then if you're talking about like equine or farm animal, you do a lot of traveling.
You talked about like how you went to volunteer like at a small animal clinic. How do you balance these activities with your academic commitments?
It was really hard for me, to be honest. Initially, I wanted to apply OVC, Ontario Veterinary College. They have like a requirement of you have to do a minimum of 2.5 credits per semester, which means that you have to take 5 courses per semester. And then you have to take at least 5 courses to be considered if you want to apply for OVC. But then for my zoology degree, I have 0.25 credit of like one course, which is like a lab course. And then so I have to take 6 courses per semester just to meet the OVC's requirement. I was actually struggling at the time because even though it was like half credit course, but I have to take 6 courses in total. For vet school, they usually ask you to do like extracurricular volunteer experience. To be honest, I didn't think I balanced very well for the first semester, but later on, I just stay up late. I try to stay out of my work. I try to pull all-nighter, which is like really, really bad. Like don't do all-nighters. It really affect your mentality, to be honest. But then after that 2 years of like hardworking and stuff, I was like, okay, finally graduate, finally can like calm down a little bit. My tips would just be try your best to use daily planner. It didn't work for me, but it worked for a lot of other people. For me, I just put all-nighter and work really hard and then try to catch all the deadline. And when I was really sick, I asked my professor for extension. I remember she was my pet nutrition professor, and then she was really, really nice. She gave me, I was like sick like this. I was even more sick. I lost my voice completely. And I was just like telling my professor, actually, I'm like really struggling right now. Is it okay if I have an extension for this project? And then she said, yes, of course. And she gave me actually 2 extension. So sometimes when you're really, you feel like you're about to lose your mind or you're really sick, just ask for your professor for extension. And then, but at the same time, you should have a work-life balance, even though it could be really hard, but then just try to have a regular sleeping schedule. If you really have a lot of things to do, you can actually do like, you sleep at 11 o'clock, you wake up at 3 a.m. and then you just do stuff in the morning. That's what I do now. Yeah.
Okay. Can you provide some insights into like the interview process for the Uni of Edinburgh? For example, what type of questions were asked and how do you prepare for the whole interview?
For University of Edinburgh, they're doing MMI. So it's like my favorite interview style because before when I was applying for OVC, they were also doing MMI, but they changed to Casper, the other form of interview during COVID. But then I practiced so much for my MMI scenario that when it comes to the MMI interview for Edinburgh, I just feel like it's not like easy, but it's like really fun to actually talk to the interviewers about your perspective of animal well-being and everything. So I remember they give you like a picture of scenario, for example, a picture of the zoo, a picture of the animals in animal husbandry condition, and then they ask you to talk about, oh, what do you think about this situation? Is there anything you want to improve? And then just talk about animal welfare in general. And I also remember to talk about my experience working in the animal hospital, what I learned, stuff like that. We also have a math station, but because it was during COVID, so we did everything online. So they asked lots of like calculation questions. I think it was like around 30 minutes or so.
Do you have any tips for preparing for the other academic components, for some of the personal statement?
For personal statement, I watch lots of YouTube videos of other people's suggestion of writing their personal statements. There's this vet YouTuber, Mei Yan, that graduated from Cambridge University. So I watched her YouTube video about like personal statement, and that was really helpful. And then for my personal statement, I wrote it in a way that was like very straightforward. So instead of using like an opening statement, like, oh, when I was young, I had like a fascination about animal, blah, blah, blah. I just go straight to the point saying that I think I'm a good candidate for the vet school because blah, 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 blah.
So on to the next question. Were there any like particular challenges or obstacles you faced during this application process, and how did you overcome it?
I feel like it's the fear of rejection. Also, during my application process, I'm not talking about application process to Edinburgh University, mainly talking about the one that I applied for like OVC. It's because I applied during my school year when I was still an undergrad. It was a lot because I had my 6 courses. I have to do extracurricular activity. I have to also apply for vet school. I have to practice my MMI interview when I first applied. So everything came together. I was like, oh my God, this is a lot. I have to maintain my average. I feel like my communication skill was like very bad when I was in 3rd year university. So I was like trying to practice in front of the camera almost every single day, talking about MMI scenarios. But then I rewatched my video and I was like, oh damn, this is really bad. I felt defeated at the time. I was like, why am I so bad? Maybe I don't deserve being in vet school. I have this moments of high and low. And then on the other day, I was like, okay, I actually feel like I improved a little bit. So I was like, okay, maybe I will get into vet school. So it's like the uncertainty and then also the hard work that you're like putting in, and then sometimes you don't get a really good result. This kind of uncertainty, and also I'm sleep deprived, all that kind of thing is like the biggest obstacle I had when I applied for vet school. I was applying for Edinburgh University. Already out of school, I was working in a vet clinic. I got lots of confidence in the field because I feel like I'm learning so much every single day. Working with clients, restraining animals, working with vets, they actually help a lot with my confidence of being a vet. And then they're really encouraging. So I was like, yeah, I think I can do this. And also I've been practicing MMI so much, it's gonna be easy for me because I practiced so much. So when I was applying for Edinburgh, there was like actually no pressure for me.
So
Yeah.
you talked about how you have been struggling with the social speaking skills. So
Yeah.
a lot of people think like, oh, in vet, you don't really need to talk to a lot of people because you're facing animals most of the time, but it's usually urgent, right? So are there any other misconceptions about the field that to address?
Some people say human medicine is harder than veterinary medicine. And then they're just like, you're just playing with like puppies most of the time, and then you learn about their anatomy and stuff. But human medicine, you learn like so in depth of everything. And I was like, that's not true. We learn about so many animals. Like for example, like for Edinburgh, 1st year and a half, it's some foundation of veterinary medicine. Like we learn about anatomy, physiology, immunology, all that kind of stuff. And then later on, we have like each semester we learn about one type of animal species. So this year we're learning about cats and dogs. Next year we're learning about farm animals and public health. And then later we're going to learn about exotics and horses and everything. So every animal, we have to know their anatomy. Some of them have a specific types of anatomy. Those kind of things we all have to know, right? But then for human medicine, they only need to know about one species. It's just more in depth. I feel like human medicine is hard, veterinary medicine is also hard. And then when people say, I feel like vet med, it's easier than human med. I was like, how did you know? I think it's equally hard, studying medicine is equally hard. Same with communication skill. I feel like communication skill is like the top one most important quality that a vet should have. At least like for me, I feel like I need to have a really good communication skill to be able to talk to the owner, learn how to effectively communicate with them, learn how to persuade them, like if you want the animal to receive the best treatment possible while considering the owner's situation, like their financial situation, like how are they willing to listen to you. You have to like know how to increase compliance in the owner. So it is all come to how you talk to them, how you address the problem. And so I feel like communication skill is like the most important skill that vets should have. And then that's something I'm still like practicing as well. There's like a specific way that you can talk to the owner, eye contact, verbal, nonverbal communication. That's everything that we should learn about. And in Edinburgh, they have like communication courses as well throughout the degree. So I think that's really helpful.
Is there anything you wish you had known differently during your application process?
To be honest, I would make Edinburgh my first choice because I didn't know that there's like a 5-year program after high school. So I didn't know about that at all. I was studying in North America. I was studying in Toronto. So for their vet school, you have to have an undergraduate degree. But then for the UK system, actually after your A level, after you graduate from high school, you can enter vet school. So if I actually knew this existed, I would actually apply earlier. when I really, really wanted to be a vet, that was when I was in second year university. You don't know like what's gonna happen in the future. You don't know about your career path and stuff. Sometimes, even though I say, oh, I wish I could apply earlier, but maybe now it's the best time. Because when I was in high school, I was very immature. I didn't know what to do in life. I knew that maybe I should be like a forensic scientist. Maybe I should be a vet student. Maybe I should be a zookeeper or do research and stuff. I didn't know what I want to do. So even if go back in time, like when I was in high school, maybe I still will like wait a few years to explore and see, okay, vetman is something I really, really want to do.
Is there any advice you would give to students who want to apply for vet school?
Even if you feel like, for example, you're not like good enough with like communication and stuff, it can be practice, and you can be like really good with your interview as long as you practice. When I say practice, it means that you practice in front of your camera, like, because sometimes you feel intimidated to practice with your friends. That's how I felt, because I was like, oh, I'm so bad, like if I like talk to my friends, maybe it's going to be more awkward. So I just prepare myself before I practice with my friends. I just use my phone, film myself almost every single day for an hour just to practice MMI scenario. So the one that I use is Vet Ethics by Roland. I think that's the name. And then they have like different cases of animal welfare question. And then so I just use that every single day. I also like Google MMI question online, and I practice that almost every single day. And then make sure to rewatch that video and then say, oh, you can improve on this part, you can improve on this part, and then you just re-record it. I can guarantee you, if you do this every single day, after maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're gonna be really good at talking about MMI question, animal welfare question. And also for MMI question, it is very helpful if you have a structure in mind. So if you, for example, if this is a scenario, you have to consider all the perspective of people or animal that is in the scenario. So we consider the client's perspective, the animal's perspective, your perspective as, for example, a vet or a veterinary assistant, or you were like volunteering at the organization. In a broad spectrum, you also consider, if you don't do anything in the scenario, what's the society going to think about this case? When somebody give me an MMI question, I always consider those kind of perspective. I talk about those perspective first. I talk about what's the most pressing issue in the scenario, and then I come up with a solution plan. So if owner blah 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 blah, then I will blah 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 blah. And also for MMI scenario, I always do not make any assumption. It's having a structure, practice every single day.
So apart from that, so are there any specific achievements or experiences you think you should have set you apart from other applicants?
Working in the clinics definitely help. Also being very confident. If you volunteered in a lot of, for example, different animal clinics, extracurricular activity like Let's Talk Science, which is like an organization for youth education, like STEM education, you interact with lots of different group of people. During my application process of getting into vet school, I became like very extroverted. So I was very introverted in high school. Because I want to apply for vet school, I forced myself to sign up for lots of things and then do a lot of things all at once. And I became really extroverted when I got into vet school. When I was doing my interview, I think I was showing that I'm very extroverted and very confident. And because I also have like experiences in volunteering in different kinds of organization, horse stable, donkey sanctuary, Hyde Park Zoo. I was like the fundraising lead at Let's Talk Science, and also working at the animal clinic. I feel like I have enough experience to be confident during the interview. And when I was at the interview, I wasn't very nervous. I just like talked to the interviewers. When they asked me questions, I just like, oh yeah. So that makes me very confident. And then I think confidence and good communication skill is like the key during interview. Even though you don't feel like you're confident, you have to like show them that you're bright and happy to talk to them.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next part about studying FedMed in the Uni of Edinburgh. My first question is, what initially attracted you to the field of FedMed, and were there any specific experiences that inspired your career choices?
As I mentioned before, it's just because University of Edinburgh admission team came to Guelph to actually do the talk. So I was like, oh, very interested in Edinburgh. and RVC at the time. I applied for RVC and Edinburgh at the time. I was interested in both school. The reason why I chose Edinburgh is because of the tuition fee. It's lower than RVC. And for RVC, each year, the tuition fee just increased so much. So RVC gave me, the first year is like 38.6K pound. And then the second year it's 41K. And I was like, oh my God, that's like a lot. And then for Edinburgh, the 4-year tuition is all fixed to be like 34.2. So I was like, yeah, that's really good. Before my interview for University of Edinburgh, they had like an introduction video, and then they showed their campus. They talk about their exotic department. I was like, yeah, this is why I wanna go. And then for RVC, they just went straight into the interview. So they didn't really talk much about their school. That's another reason why I chose Edinburgh.
You mentioned before that you're really interested in exotic animals, right? Are there
Yeah.
any particular reasons why you're really drawn to them?
I'm really interested in small exotic mammals. I just find them super cute, especially rabbits and rats. That's like two of my favorite creatures in the world. If it's possible, I want to focus on cats and dog and small exotic mammals, if that's possible. So for birds and reptile and amphibian, I'm not interested, but maybe I will change my mind in the future. But right now, I'm like really, really interested in like small exotic mammals, especially rabbits and rats. I had rabbit as my pet, 3 rats as my pets. I had like 2 hamsters, not like together, in my different time period. I had one in high school, I had one in primary school. So all the pets that I have are like small exotic mammals. So I have like special attachment to them. And then another reason is because in Toronto, I didn't see a lot of exotic animal clinics that actually treat exotic mammals. So I was like, oh yeah, we need more exotic vet in Toronto. I'm interested in this field. Maybe I'll do internship for exotic mammals or for exotic pets. And then I'll go to like GP for either dogs and cat or exotic mammal.
So could you describe what
Can you
type
repeat
of
the question?
coursework?
So for my first year, because I was in the graduate entry program, we started school very early. We started in August the 6th, I remember exactly. And then we had a month of canine anatomy. And then we also talk about, I think, equine and bovine limbs as well. That course is called AB1. It's just learning about anatomy. In September, we had like 4 days of break. And after that, it's AB2, which is animal body 2. And then that one, it was about immunology, parasitology, virology, bacteriology, all the ology. And then we had lots of like labs and stuff. Oh, we have parasitology too in AB2, right? We had ABSC, which is called animal body and system and cases or something like that. Cardiology, neurology, just everything in like their boardology term. We had like clinic-based cases every week. So for example, today we're learning about cats with hyperthyroidism. And then so the professor actually go through a clinical presentation with you. You just go through diagnostic process with the professor for like 1 hour and 30 minutes or 2 hours. I cannot really remember. So that's basically my first year of vet school. For like the UK school, you need to complete your animal husbandry placement, like required, right? Basically, we have 12 weeks that we need to do. We can only do it during our break. So we only have Christmas break, Easter break, and then summer break. The deadline was August the 1st. So basically, you have to squeeze everything during the break. So I did 2 weeks of dairy placement in Christmas, 2 weeks of lambing in Wales, 1 week of cats and dog catery in Edinburgh. And after that, I went back home in the summer, 2 weeks of lab animal, 2 weeks of equine, 2 weeks of poultry. I did like chicken farm as well in University of Guelph, 1 week of pig in London, Ontario. And then later on, going to my second year, we started off with clinical foundation course where you learn about like anesthesia, clinical oncology, diagnostic imaging, evidence-based veterinary medicine. It's like epidemiology and pharmacology. I'll also learn about surgery as well. Veterinary pathology, we learn about cardiac pathology, for example, musculoskeletal, neuropathology, blah, 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 stuff like that. That's last semester. This year is cats and dog courses. We're building our knowledge on top of what we learned before.
How would you describe the overall environment studying in this vet program? And are there any unique opportunities that you found that's been really valuable to you?
We have so many resources given to us. It's a good thing, but sometimes it feels like overwhelming. But I do prefer having lots of resources available. We also have like student advisor for each year. And also I have a personal tutor when I started vet school. I'm really, really happy. When I was like doing my admission admission like research and stuff, admission video. I saw like Dr. Gura on the video, and then I actually saw her in person, and then she's my personal tutor. It made me really happy, and then she provided lots of really valuable resources for me to be adjusting to the school. We have VTO, which is the vet teaching office, and whenever I have like questions about my EMS placement or other school related stuff, I just go to their office and ask all the questions. And I feel like we had lots of support as a vet student. Vet school is part of the big university, so we have like lots of other opportunities to join, societies in the big university. I joined Edinburgh Innovation, which is a business, I would just say it's a program that helps students who wants to do business in the future. They have like entrepreneur workshop, freelancer workshop, and I know lots of friends outside of vet degree. I think it's really fun to talk to people outside of vet school. And then I also joined Abacus as well, British Asian Society that has lots of festival events. So I made lots of friends outside of vet school. Go out of your way to make new friends in the main university. Not only you can make friends in vet school, you can also have other opportunities to make friends in other programs and degrees.
So to the last question, could you speak about the challenges that veterinarians face in their day-to-day work?
Compassion fatigue, everybody has been talking about it. It's just really hard that for most of us, we're doing it because we love this career. We want to be a very good vet, helping the animals, but sometimes the owner has other kinds of, for example, financial limitation. You cannot provide the optimum care to the animal. Sometimes it feels really sad. And also when you're trying to, talk about treatment options and stuff, and some owners will think that, oh, I'm not gonna go for the more expensive one. I'm just gonna go the symptomatic treatment just to treat the symptom. You'll be like, oh, but it's really important to do, blood work and everything to make sure that we know exactly what's going on. The owner might say, oh, probably just want the money, right? I heard a lot of clients complain about prices in vet clinic. We're already a very economically friendly clinic, and then most of the pricing we're like lower end. Lots of clients still think that it's very expensive. Most of them are really grateful of what we do. Some clients are just either being really rude or either don't understand why we're recommending this treatment option even though we explain to them, and then they just say very hurtful words to the vet and then to the veterinarian staff. And then that's when you're like, you got 9 compliments and 1 bad word, and then all you remember after work is that 1 bad word that a client say to you. It is really hard mentally. You try your best to treat the animal, but then at the end the owner don't like appreciate you. So I was just a veterinary assistant at the time. I feel like I was just like a bystander looking at the client talking to the vet. Now I'm a vet student. If I were the vet, I would feel very, very sad. I probably would just cry after going back to my office because I'm doing everything for the animal, but the clients are interpreting my intention as like, oh, money grabber and stuff. That is like very challenging working as a vet, is that you have good intention, but the client just don't take it as a good intention, and then they interpret it in a different way. I'm still like working on that as well. You have to take compliments, those negative feedback on the same level. You just cannot like think it personally. You have to like make boundary to clients and make sure that they don't hurt you personally, and then you leave all the bad comments at work and you don't bring it home.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining our podcast and taking the time to answer our questions about FedMed and Uni of Edinburgh. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure it will benefit our audience a lot.
For having me.
Thank you.